Hey everyone, it's Jenny AJ. So today I'm going to be doing a tutorial on Notified, spelled ntfy. And so whether you're a DIY self-hosted enthusiast or a developer looking for a simple notification system, this tutorial should be right for you. I'll guide you through configuring Notify using Docker Compose. We'll also set up user authentication with tokens, and then I'll show you how you can add it to your workflow, such as setting up CrowdSec to receive notifications when decisions are made. Um, all right, so let's get started. All right, so let's start off with the compose.yaml file. There is official documentation for setting up Notify, and I'll place that in the video description below. I myself use the official documentation when setting up my Notify service. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the file. All right, so here you see the services that we are configuring as Notify. The image, I'm just using the standard Notify image. So the container name will be Notify ntfy. I'm placing it within the caddy network because the reverse proxy that I'm using is caddy. You can look at my previous videos on how I got that set up. And then the command that we're going to be running when this Docker container spins up is serve, which will just start the Notify service inside the container. And then here you have the time zone wherever you're located. So the volume mounts host directories into the container for persistent data. Here you have the cache. This is mapped to the var cache notify inside the container. This just stores runtime data like your cache files. And then you have your etc notify. This is for configuration files, specifically the server.yaml file, which I will discuss later. Here I have commented out the ports. That's just because I'm using my caddy reverse proxy. It's not necessary. So, but if you're not using a reverse proxy, then here this is where you would map your host port to your container port. Then the restart policy is restart unless manually stopped. And then we see that we're stating that the caddy network is externally created so that Docker doesn't attempt to create the network when we start the container. Real quick, before we start the container, I just want to show you how I have Notify configured within my caddy file with the reverse proxy um, pointing to the container name. This is the container name, Notify, and the port service that it is running within the container, which is 80. So I just have Notify because by default it'll point to 80. So I already have my DNS record updated to point to notify.test.geniehome.net as well. Also, before we start the container, we need to create one more file, which is the server.yaml file. This file should be created within the etc notify directory. Within this file, you only really need 3 lines, which is the auth file, the auth default access, and the base URL. So the auth file is the user access database file, which would just be labeled auth.db. The auth default access defines the default fallback access if no access control entry is found. So this can be set to either read, write, read only, write only, or deny all. So for my setup, I have it set to deny all. And then you have the base URL, which will be needed when configuring notifications for your mobile devices. This 4th line is specific to only iOS notifications. If you are using an iPhone, such as myself, you'll need to add this 4th line. All right, once you have all the files configured, you can then start the container by running the command sudo docker compose up -d. So before we test the URL, I want to implement some access controls first. So by default, Notify allows everyone to read and write to any topic. A topic is a unique identifier that's just used to send and receive notifications. Topics can also be created dynamically when you publish or subscribe to them, which I will go over later. So the command that you want to run commands inside the notify container is the sudo docker exec it notify bin sh. So now we are inside the Docker container. First, you'll want to create a user. For this tutorial, we will be creating two users, an admin user and then a CrowdSec user for the demonstration later. So the command that you want to run inside the container will be notify user add role equals admin and then the username, which will be admin. You want to set a password for it. Okay, and then we also want to create the user CrowdSec as well. And the username will be CrowdSec. And then we'll add a password. From here, you can just run the command notify user list to show the list of users we just created. And as you can see, we have user admin with the role of admin, and then the user CrowdSec with no specific permissions. So the role admin by default allows the user to read and write to any topic. So we also want to create an authentication token for the user CrowdSec. And we can do this by running the command notify token add CrowdSec, which will create a token that never expires. If you want to create a token that expires, you'll just add a tac expires equals however many days you want. You'll put that right after the add, before the username. So you want to save this token to be used later. If you ever need to list your tokens again, you can run the command notify token list, and it will show your tokens that you've created. Now the next command that we will use is the notify access command. And this is to modify topic permissions for users. So you remember the server.yaml file, the off default access was set to deny all. So we must configure each non-admin user with permissions to access topics. So for this tutorial, we are going to give the user CrowdSec write-only permissions to the topic named CrowdSec alerts, which we will create in the following step. So you will do this by running the following command: notify access CrowdSec, which is the name of the user, then the name of the topic, CrowdSec alerts is the name, and then the permission is write only. And here you see we've granted the write only access to the topic CrowdSec alerts for user CrowdSec. And that should be enough for the user to be able to send notifications to the topic CrowdSec alerts. Again, please review the official documentation for more examples of how you can further configure your access permissions. But for this tutorial, this is all you need to do. So now we want to make sure that we can access the URL, and we need to create some topics. So we'll go to the website. And as you can see, we can access the URL. Before we create a topic, we need to add a user. So we'll go to settings, and then from settings, we'll go to add user. And then we're going to add the user admin. So for service URL, we're just going to put our URL that we created, notify.test.unihome.net. Username, admin, then password that you created. And this will allow us to read and write to any topic within this web page. Next, to create a topic, all you have to do is click subscribe to a topic. And then just type in the name of the topic that you want to create. So for this tutorial, we will create one topic called CrowdSec Alerts. So you can also generate a random name, and that is what I usually do within my production servers because it's less likely for anyone to guess your topic name if it's random. So as you can see, we have now created the topic CrowdSec Alerts. And looking at the example, we just need to run the curl command to send a notification. So let's test that out real quick. All right, so on my local desktop, I'm now going to attempt to run this command, this curl command, -d, the notification that we want to send, and then the URL / the topic name. When I run this command, I receive a forbidden, which just means I'm not authorized to write to this topic, and that is because I am not an authenticated user. So to authenticate, you want to run this command, which as the header authorization bearer than the token that we created earlier. So when I run this command, as you can see, the command works and we immediately get a notification. All right, so now we can configure CrowdSec to be able to send alerts whenever decisions are made to block or ban an IP. But in order to do this, we need to utilize the auth parameter, which looks like this. As you can see, the auth parameter is only the base 64 encoded token that we created earlier. And there's a command, you can use the base 64 command on Linux, or you can convert to base 64 string for PowerShell. And I can show you how to do both. So for Linux, the command right here, echo-n bearer, the token that we created, and then you want to pipe it over to base 64 and then remove the trailing $, and that'll give you the auth token that you need for that curl command. And then for PowerShell, you can do the convert to base 64 string command, and you should get the same value. Yep, and as you can see, it is the same value. Now let's see if the curl command with the auth parameter is working. As you can see, it is working and we did receive the second notification. We can now configure CrowdSec to send notifications when a decision is made to block an IP. In order to do this, all you need to do is add the file notify.yaml under your config-notifications directory. And within the file, you'll just need to change the URL. So within the file, if you go all the way down to the URL, and for here, the URL that we're using is the notify container name, and then the topic name, and then the auth equals will be that base 64 encoded string that we created earlier. And Everything else for this file can remain the same. You will save and exit and then restart CrowdSec. Now that the CrowdSec container is back up and running, we can run the following command within the CrowdSec container to test the notification that we just created. So you're going to run sudo docker exec CrowdSec cscli notifications test and then the name notify. And as you can see, we did receive a CrowdSec trigger. That means that our notifications is in fact working. And there you have it, a complete walkthrough to set up your very own Notify notification service. And there's so much more you can do with Notify. I have scripts that I've set up on my servers to automatically pull new GET requests from my GET and send out a notification. And of course, I'm using Uptime Kuma as well to send out notifications. There's just so much you can do with this notification service. So if you found this video helpful, make sure you hit that like button, and subscribe for more tech tips, tutorials. If you have questions or want to share your own setup experience, please drop a comment below. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching. Until next time.